I'm Amanda.
And I'm Mel.
And this is the Road Back Home podcast. Hey Mel, how's it going?
Hey, not too bad. How are you, fella?
Sure, I'm great. Now I am sitting here with a cup of tea and I just got my cup heaters under it to keep it nice and warm.
I didn't even know those existed.
There we are now.
A cup heater. It's actually not a bad idea. I'm forever making a cup of tea in the morning and then shoving it into the microwave several times that same morning.
Yeah. So, we said, given that the holidays are fast approaching, that we would do an episode about coping with the holidays.
Yes, I think that'll be helpful for everyone.
Yeah. So, like what kind of things do we anticipate? What kind of challenges do we face or might people face around holidays? And how, what kind of ways can we look after ourselves? As you know, I'm very big on self-care, and I know you are too. As something, when I first, I'm remembering back to my therapy, my main therapy session. When I say my main therapy, it was like, I tried therapy for years, and it was, the first time I found a therapist, timing and all of that, and it stuck, let's say, and I did a long process. And she's the one who introduced me to the concept of self-care. This is in 2009. And I didn't even know what self-care, like the concept of it before then. And in the beginning, she used to say, "So what was your self-care this week?" And the best I could do was, well, I didn't call myself an asshole. That was it. That was literally the extent of my self-care. It was like, I couldn't conceive of what it was in terms other than not doing the things to myself that were mean. So self-care was just about, what I was refraining from that was apparently what I shouldn't be doing. Like, for example, my self-talk, shouldn't be calling myself names. And so if I didn't call myself names, I thought that was self-care. And it was.
Do you know what? It was. I was going to say you had to start there.
Yeah.
You had to start there in order to, get into the deeper places.
Yeah.
You can't get there if you're still calling yourself an asshole.
Yeah, and I think it probably did begin with self-talk. So, but at the end of every episode, at the end of every session, she'd say, "So, what was your self-care this week?" Or at the beginning of every session, "What was your self-care this week?" And I hated the question because, I didn't have a good answer, kind of a thing, and I was scrambling. But over time, being asked the question over and over and over again for 18 months, really did bring me into at least that consciousness. And so, here I am, how many years later? 15 years later. And like, I'm really good at self-care now.
You are my self-care goddess. I look to you for self-care guidance.
There you go. So, yeah, self-care in the holidays. So what kind of challenges do we think that people might meet in
Well, I know for sure because I've spoken to a few friends recently, and we had Thanksgiving not so long ago, and that's kind of the beginning of the holiday season over here. And already I have had conversations with friends who have a hard time coping with being in a room with family members that they practice boundaries with throughout the year, but in that closer environment, being literally at a dinner table with them, being in a living room with them, the boundary suddenly needs a little bit of tightening up. So I wonder if we could talk about, and I suppose, is it even a boundary or is it just distance? You don't have to see them for the whole year except for that holiday time where there might be a tradition where they come to your house or you go to their house. I think if it was a real boundary, well, that probably wouldn't be happening. So I guess the question is how to cope at parties, at gatherings, where you have to be in a space with a family member. Let's use a very specific example. How do you deal with a narcissistic family member around the holidays,
Mm,
sharing space with them?
okay. So one of the things I would say is, in terms of the concept of narcissism, is, it's a word that we use, let's say, to describe somebody who might have traits, narcissistic traits, such as, and we probably all do to some degree. I know that I
Hmm.
recognize times when I am, I might have some traits. But anyway, um, I follow some trials. That's my latest thing. I've gone from true crime to actually watching the trials of these people on YouTube, and I have come to realize that, like, I will never call a normal person a narcissist again, because I've seen narcissists at work in these trials. And if you ever want to, a true narcissist, I don't think it's
Mm.
possible to be in a room with them without losing your shit. So that's where you say, yeah, an absolute boundary would be essential if the person was a true narcissist of the type. Like, if you want an example, go into YouTube and look at Sarah Boone's statement at sentencing. So the Sarah Boone sentencing, and
Hmm.
then listen to her statement. Now, without the context of the full trial, it probably won't make much sense. But anyway, that's a narcissist. But let's say you're around somebody who is completely not self-aware, selfish in ways that are quite immature. Me, has to be about me, blaming. It's all about me, things like that. People who are just really difficult to be around. Um, First of all, understanding the impact that they're having on you. So we've already gone through the how to what to do with resentment episode. If you haven't listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. It's episode 8, as far as I know. What to do with resentment. If you are a free subscriber to the Road Back Home, which you can do, go into the show notes and all of that. That's Substack. You will receive the download that will walk you through that process. So that is one big tool that you can have in terms of, like, understanding, how how they're annoying you, or how they're hard to be around, let's say. So that's a how to deal with resentment. But you could also do that process for, people who are hard to be around. Like, I resent them hogging the limelight. You can do that. Or I resent their selfishness, and go through that process. That's one way of, let's say, psychologically and emotionally supporting yourself in having something to do with all the feelings that get triggered around somebody like that. Apart from that, what I would say is, um, what are what are your limits? What are your plans? Who have you got in your court? Like, what are the sleeping arrangements? All of those kinds of things. Like, so you have 3 types of boundaries. You've physical boundaries, you've psychological boundaries, and you've emotional boundaries. So, in terms of having to spend, um, now, first of all, having to spend Christmas with them, you can look at that and say, well, do you have to spend Christmas with them, or are you doing it rather than have an argument? And that's a whole other show, Ricky, as such. But, like, maybe it can be, maybe it's because this isn't a black and white line. So understand as well that on some level you are choosing to be around this person, not for them maybe, but because it comes with, it means being around family, or it means blah, 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 blah. So that's one thing, is that you can help yourself by saying, no, I'm choosing this. Like, I could just not come. I could just not go. Um, but then if I don't go, I'll have all this to deal with. So to
Right.
understand that, yeah, that it is a choice. And then, and if you are just going for the day, what's the latest you can arrive? You know,
Right. Yeah.
what can you do with yourself while you're there? So, for example, like, can you busy yourself? Can you offer to, be in the kitchen if they're going to be somewhere else, or can you be somewhere else where they're, like, wherever they are, whatever their job is on the day? Like, can you make it so that you are occupied in other ways, so that you're not under their feet or they're under yours, you know?
I like that. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Being strategic about where you place yourself around that person. It's interesting because I found myself doing that not so long ago at an event where there was a person present who um, just rubs me the wrong way and knows that they rub me the wrong way and almost follows me around to get a reaction. And
yeah,
thankfully, it was an event with adults and kids. And as you know, I love being with kids. So I busied myself with the kids and I placed myself strategically with the kids, knowing that this person wouldn't approach because not only do they not like kids, but, um, you know, it wouldn't have been an environment in which their bait would have worked anyway. I just
interesting.
don't I don't engage with the person when they say things that is an obvious bait for me. I don't take it.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Here's another throwback to my therapy days, right? There was one day I was in there and I was moaning about somebody. I was giving out about somebody, you know? And I was probably given out about, I think the nature of it was something like, I was after taking something on or whatever it was. But anyway, I was in the middle of my sentence and the next thing she just hurled a beanbag at me, right?
Oh, Jesus.
Tiny little, those little bean sack
Oh, yeah.
things.
And I had a massive beanbag now that she just put it over her head and hurled it at you. I was coming for her.
No, no, those little beanie sack things. She just hurled it
Yeah.
at me. And like a cat, I had reflexes like a cat and I caught it in my hand and continued bitching, like it even stopped my flow. And she said, Amanda, why did you catch that? I said,
Mm,
because you threw it at me. Like, what was I supposed to do? Just drop it? And she was like, well, what would that have been like?
yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? The whole thing was like, well, what if I threw it at you? Like, whose is it? And I was like, it's yours. And she says, but you're holding it. Whose is it now?
Yeah. Wow.
And I was like, wow. And she said, but did I ask you to catch it? And I said, no. She said, did I tell you I was throwing it? And I was like, no, but you did throw it and I caught it. Like, what's the big deal? I was resisting the lesson. So then we
Mm,
practiced. She actually practiced throwing it at me and me just sitting there and letting it fall on the ground and not picking it up to hand it back. Because the way you might do that, you'd be like, oh, you dropped your bean back. Here you go.
mm-hmm.
You know, all of those things. So we practice for a while. And once again, like everything, you feel it in your body.
Mm,
The
mm-hmm.
discomfort of somebody throwing something at you and you not catching it or picking it up or, you not dealing with it. You just letting it fall and rest
Mm-hmm.
there. And you feel that discomfort in your body because the urge in you is to take the bait.
Mm-hmm.
And so it can be really difficult not to take the bait. But that's a really good one, Mel. Yeah, absolutely. Know what the bait is. Get good at recognizing bait when it comes
Mm-hmm.
along.
And, look at sometimes, manipulative people are so good at sneaking the bait in that you don't realize that you've taken it until you're halfway through, an argument with them. And then you realize, oh, shit, I must have at some point been set up to take the bait and I took it. So,
Yeah,
it's definitely, it's a practice. It's a practice. And for
yeah,
me, around this person that I'm talking about, um, I just strategically place myself away, you know, whether it's a few people between us or a room between us. And I'm only in this person's company when I have to be because it is a gathering where I want to see the other people there. And I don't want
yeah.
this person to be the reason I don't go. So listen, there's so many emotional um,
Mm,
stressors, obviously
yeah,
over the holiday season. Let's talk a little bit about some of the physical stress.
yeah, yes,
Like as a parent, let's say I'll jump into the parenting one, and I always thought that as my kids got older, the preparation for Christmas might get easier. right? Starting with the Christmas shopping and the Christmas lists and, you know, going out into the chaos of Christmas shopping. And some people enjoy it. It's a very, very stressful situation for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
And then the gathering of the gifts and the sorting them out and the figuring out when do I have time to get the kids to school and sit down and go through stuff and wrap stuff and, the stress of that, or the stress even of saying, at what point do I say to my kids, okay, we're doing experiences this year. I love giving an experience as a gift. But my kids, even though they're older, they're 15 and 16, they still love the idea of Santa and presents. And obviously, they're no longer believing in Santa, but it's still a magical time for them. And I want to preserve that for as long as I can, but not necessarily at the cost of the stress of doing it all, right? So there has to be some sort of a balance. So for me, this year, for the first time in a long time, I decided to start my shopping early.
Mm.
Um, I started it on the most chaotic shopping day of the year, Black Friday, but I went out early and I prepared myself for it. And I kind of gave myself some emotional limits. And I was very aware going into the shops that I would do this under these conditions. And if those conditions changed, I was out. I
Oh, I love
wasn't going to
that.
force it, wasn't going to, overstep the conditions that I had set for myself. I tend to be very affected by the lights in certain stores,
Oh, same.
and they could, oh my God, and it just can make me feel dizzy and lightheaded and almost nauseous. So that was a big condition for me. When you start feeling that, if that feeling comes to you, well, my first condition was see how you feel when you wake up in the morning. You know, what kind of where's your body at? Do you feel that this is something that you can take your body into? Because if not, setting yourself up for the stress, right?
Mm.
So I took care of myself on Thanksgiving. Granted, I hosted, but it was a very easy host for me. It was just family, my own immediate family, my brother, my nephew, and it was just easy and lovely. And I went to bed early, hydrated myself all day, and I woke up ready to go. And I was probably out shopping for about 4 or 5 hours when I started feeling that feeling of, okay, I think I'm coming to a place where I need to step back from this. And normally I'd push through that. Normally I'd say, just keep going, give it 2 more hours and you'll be done. But I kept thinking, anything else I need to do, I can do gradually. I can do online. I can set time aside for it. It's been a very enjoyable few hours. Leave it at that. So I didn't allow myself to reach that point of exhaustion where I would have been resentful, almost wrapping the presents,
Yes.
you know?
So true.
So, things like that, and just making sure that I was, staying hydrated and, feeding myself well. And it sounds ridiculous in a way. It's like you're going to battle. But, I suffer with some unlabeled autoimmune stuff that creates a stress on my body.
Mm.
And I, as I get older and my energy becomes more precious, I have to reserve it. And, avoiding stress as much as possible is important. And I don't do it well in all areas of my life. In my business life, I have a lot to learn
Mm.
about, taking things off my plate. I'm getting much better at delegating. I'm getting much better at hiring people because, at the end of the day, I feel like paying them to do the job is giving myself a gift of relieving myself from that job, particularly if it's one that I find difficult
Mm.
or time consuming or, brain melting. So for me, it's the preparation,
Yeah.
preparing for it, setting dates for whether it's shopping or getting the groceries in, or and delegating,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh,
Not, I'm still
Mel, it's
not,
so true.
yeah, still not doing it to the point where I can easily come out of the holidays and say that was a breeze. There's
Yeah.
always some level, of stress involved. And there's a part of me that thrives a little bit on some of the stress.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
feels like an accomplishment, and that can be a mistake sometimes.
I know. Yeah. It's because probably because it's releasing adrenaline.
Somebody did actually point out recently that I was an adrenaline junkie,
Mm.
and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh shit, I
Yeah. And
think I am."
and then we normalize the feeling, we normalize that rush. And again,
Mm,
it's what you've normalized, Um, but as I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, and something I really do want to say to people is that, the, really how to survive the holidays really should begin like in January of the year prior, that kind of way, as in like
mm,
this is going to be a process. Like if you're arriving into the holidays and now it's emergency break situation, if emergency self-care, it is a thing and you can do that. But self-care can also be something that is preventative and that you're
mhm,
doing along the way to kind of like buffer all of this, the friction that's going on around it, so that you arrive into a stressful situation already um, balanced or grounded in some way. In fact, I was out with somebody the other night and I was really struck by her energy. And because on the night we were around somebody who had quite frantic energy, just very, very, you really had to ground yourself around this person. She was very,
mm. Was it
or they were
erratic?
do you know what it was? They were very kind of like, not reading personal space. So there was a lot of personal space encroaching. There was a lot of conversation
Mm,
hijacking, bringing it back to you. So it felt very draining because there was constant like at one point I joked to my friend. I was like, did you notice that we started the conversation standing here and it ended standing over there because that person kept encroaching on our personal space and we were literally taking steps back the whole way, the whole time.
wow.
And
Oh,
this person was
interesting.
stepping into our personal space the whole time. And
Mm,
so as we were driving home, I felt, I said to my friend, I was like, oh my God, there's so much resentment coming up right now because I was arguing with the person all the way home. I wasn't even arguing with her. I was arguing about them. I was like,
mm.
I was having an after response. And I kind of turned to my friend jokingly and I was like, I think I have, PTSD after that. It,
Yeah.
it, it was a lot. But I noticed that my friend's energy was so grounded. And she is a serious meditator, you know, and she does it
Mm.
like
Wow.
religiously. She has her things, yeah. And so that's what I mean. It's like your state, like in that situation, that was my first time to meet this other party, let's say. And so I was just meeting this energy for the first time. My friend she knew it and she was able so this was my first time with it. But at the same time, I have my own ways of grounding. Um, and I was fine, but I did have to unpack a bit on the way home. I had to release. That's what it is. I had to release. I had to like literally roll down the window or roll down the window, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And let
Yeah.
that energy out into the night because I was
Mm.
like, oh, get off me, get off me, get off me. So
Now,
we can carry a lot.
so did you absorb her energy in a way that your friend didn't?
I didn't absorb her energy. It was pent up energy in me from all of like, it was like I was holding my
Ah,
breath. I was holding my
yes,
breath
yeah,
around her all night, kind of a thing.
yeah.
So I
So you're
wasn't
white knuckling.
possibly. And I was, it just felt like, it felt like a series of small assaults. Do you know that kind of, that I
Mm,
managed fine in the night because what I also noticed was I didn't engage all that much because I copped quite early on that any conversation was going to be brought back around to this person and it was going to be an exhausting kind of a thing. So I did a lot of, and this is something that I was going to say earlier about, place yourself in other places around from the house. Don't take the bait.
mm,
And also learn how to be silent around somebody. Learn how to be you just non-responsive, but have little
Oh,
pocket things, little pocket things,
that
so
that
for
terrifies
example,
me.
yeah. So here's another one, right? And you'll recognize this from like Dad used to do. I used to see Dad doing this a lot when he after his gigs, and he would stand there in his wet gig suit while everybody would queue. And everyone got a piece of him, and people would say things, you're not as funny as Brendan O'Carroll or something like that. And he'd be like, sure, he's just full of worms. So, those like canned
Yeah,
responses, have the canned
yeah.
responses. And I found myself using canned responses with this woman the other night. And some of them were, oh God, that's interesting. Really?
Mm.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the kind of, so that's what I did. I didn't
Is that
kind of
is
like,
that is that not an impression of me on this podcast?
but you know what I mean? Like, I just did not take any of the bait, and none of it was malicious. None of it was malicious. It was just exhausting. I just didn't want
Mhm.
to get on the merry-go-round, because
Yeah.
what I sensed underneath it was a power struggle. What was constantly happening is she needed the limelight to be on her all the time. She needed the
Mm.
conversation to be about her all the time, and so I wasn't going to, get embroiled in any kind of a power struggle. And I didn't want to get to a point where I would get annoyed by that in terms of like, because I noticed she was doing it and I didn't try and correct her.
Mm.
Because sometimes we can do that. We think we have to correct the person, or we take the bait and we get into the power struggle. So I just sensed the power struggle, and I didn't engage, but I was again civil. I was polite, and I was able to say all the things like, she was saying, oh, I did this and blah blah blah, and I was like, God, that's it, yeah. I
Well,
think
do I get the impression that she was a lot younger?
no, she wasn't actually.
She
Hard to put it.
wasn't. Okay.
No,
See
hard to
that
put an
that
age on her.
yeah.
Yeah, no, she
Yeah.
wasn't malicious in any way. She wasn't malicious.
Yeah.
She was grand. Um,
I asked that question, by the way, because I'm always curious to know, what demographic we're talking about when it comes to people's awareness. And for
mm,
somebody to be, in their 40s or 50s, to have that lack of awareness it's just an interesting observation.
yeah, yeah. So, what I was saying, yeah. So have some kind of like canned responses. So especially, and then if now this person wasn't provoking me, she wasn't provoking anybody. She was not doing anything. She wasn't being malicious whatsoever. You know. Um, but I was just I became very aware of the underlying dynamic that was like a little bit of tug of war. There was, it
Mm,
was almost like play fighting. The way puppies play fight, and I just wasn't in the form for it. Like I
mm,
never really am. I never really am in the form for that. I don't like that. But
mm.
so yeah, have your canned responses now over Christmas. If people start goading you and taking the bait and all of those things, you can still have those canned responses, and just be like, oh, interesting, yeah. God, I never thought of it like that. I suppose.
Mm.
Great one, Dad used to say, do you know, you're probably right.
Oh God, that's a great one, because where do you go with that? Because
Yeah,
usually it's an argument they're looking for.
yeah, yeah. God,
Hmm.
you're probably right. Yeah, yeah.
And I think it's, keeping your body grounded,
Mm-hmm.
keeping yourself visibly unperturbed by the situation, I think is also a healthy deterrent.
100%. Yes. This, like being aware, like stay in your body as much as you can. Do not abandon yourself. Stay, because there's always something to do there. If you're in an
Yeah.
uncomfortable situation and you act like a Jack Russell and try and chase the person out of your, you go after them like a Jack Russell would,
Mm.
don't do that. Like the Jack Russell, funny enough, that happened recently as well, where a Jack Russell just came out of the house like scream, and just was on the warpath with us, and we were
Mm.
just minding our own business. But like when you feel like you have to push against the person or correct them or anything like that, stop. Get back in your body. Notice what's happening. For me, something very interesting recently. I only recently learned what an elevated heart rate felt like in my body, even though I've been experiencing it for years. And I didn't make the connection. So for years, what I have been saying, it felt like for all the world, your solar plexus is right in your chest, let's say, right in the center of your chest. That is a chakra. And I always thought that what I was feeling was an activated chakra, right? And that it was just like this, like glowing. It was almost like an alarm going off. It was just like a lot of energy in the center of my chakra. Now, that's not to say it's not that chakra, but I only realized recently it's an elevated heart rate. And I was like, holy shit. And it gave me realizing that my heart rate is now elevated is actually telling me that I'm now activated. Right?
Right. So your sign.
Your sign. So I'm going to talk in a minute about a little toolkit, like literally putting together a self-care toolkit. Especially if you're going to be on somebody else's turf, if you're going to someone else's house, but you should have it in your handbag at all times. So let's get back to the things you could do. So we're saying like stay in your body and tend to what's there. And something that you can do even is you can name it. Just sit in your chair and be like, oh, interesting, I'm feeling very, name it silently in your head. Or what you can do is take out your phone. I remember somebody telling me this one time. She was having a panic attack and somebody who was with her handed her her phone and said, type into your phone what's happening. What do you think? And that slowed her down.
Yes.
So you can also type into your phone. You could even type things like, fucking can't stand this bollocks and blah, blah, blah. But if you feed that, you're going to go, but type anything. Or do you know what? Actually, here's a good thing. Mary Had a Little Lamb. If you have a favorite poem, great. I have a favorite poem, like favorite poems that are very short and that I have memorized. All right. So something else you can do if you are activated in the moment is take out your phone, open a notes app, and type either your favorite poem in there or type Mary Had a Little Lamb. Its fleece was white as snow. And
Or you
everywhere
could
that
write,
Mary went.
Mary had a little lamb, her father shot the shepherd. Frank says that all the time. But come here till I tell you. Wait till I tell you a good one though. So Robin, my dear friend, who's also our fairy godmother slash child
Yeah.
psychologist, on our team at the musicals, because we deal with a lot of anxiety backstage. And Robin has this great one. She carries around with her a little bag of sour candy.
Okay.
So if you can imagine like sour jellies.
Yeah.
And she gets the child and she asks them to look around the space and name 3 things that she sees that's green. What are 3 things in the space that's green? So the child is taken away from their anxiety to focus on this.
Yes.
And in the beginning, the child is resisting a bit and they're like, a green jacket. And by the time they get to the second one, now they're really looking for the second one. So the anxiety is slowing down. And then Robin gives them a sour candy. And the idea of that, it's almost supposed to shock your system out of the anxiety because now we're focusing on this taste.
Oh, I love that.
And it's something that can be done so subtly because if you can think about it, looking around a space is a very natural thing to do. Nobody knows that you're trying to name 3 things and, taking a piece of candy out of your purse, is a natural thing to do. So and that leads me into, and your toolkit might be helpful for this too, is talking about people who deal with chronic mental health around the holidays, depression, anxiety, even, physical ailments. How do they cope with, putting themselves out there? And I think this is going to come back to people pleasing too and deciding what are you willing to put yourself out there for?
Exactly. Oh, that is so good. I love that about the candy and the looking around. And that's exactly it. Or taking out the phone and reciting Mary Had a Little Lamb, even reciting in your head. What you're doing there is you are disengaging from the source of your stress. Right? And that is so important. So that is like when the Jack Russell instinct to chase them out of there with their stupid fucking opinions arises in you, hear
Mm-hmm.
the word don't, don't,
Mm.
and go back inside. Mary had a little lamb, oh, there's a green thing, there's a green thing, there's a green thing. Sour candy. Um,
Mm.
I will definitely say something about the, you know, if you're struggling around Christmas, having been through that myself. Um, let me see. There's a couple of things I want to say here. Oh yeah, so let's say one of the triggers, if the trigger is the stress, something, and this is going back years. I had a friend, and I remember at Christmas time, she got something for the kids, and the kids, you know, whatever she got for the kids. I learned that first of all, she didn't put up decorations, didn't do Christmas decorations or anything like that, and then she also didn't wrap the presents. She just put them out. And I remember I was judging her so hard. I was like, oh my God, how could you, you know, not do Sanity? Like, you know, because she didn't do it because she was just like, nah, well, you know, why should I kind of a thing. And I was judging her so hard. And I realized that, you know, first of all, the kids didn't care because it was never like that for them. And also, this is the way she was reared. So Christmas was not, we think that Christmas is a thing. We have a model of Christmas in our head, you know, that it was all of these massive things. And then I meet people, like, you know, like my husband, there was none of that when he was growing up. Like there was no, you know, footprints, Santy's beard on the door
Oh,
handles.
same.
Yeah, there was none of that kind of stuff. And so the bar is really low. And there's, you know, there isn't any kind of expectation. So it's like, how much of this am I creating by myself? That things have to be perfectly wrapped or or that the
Mm.
perfect gifts have to be gotten and blah blah blah. Like how much of that is literally just me choosing, like, because I want it this way, and it's okay to want it this way, and it's okay to play Christmas out whatever way you want. But again, it's like I'm choosing this and I could choose different. So know that you are choosing this in spite of, like, I could choose different and that would be uncomfortable. So I'm choosing stress over discomfort. I'm just
Mm.
choosing one hard over another hard, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And this is the hard I know. So that's something else to consider is like, can we lower the bar a little bit? Because I did it this year. I am lowering the
Mm-hmm.
bar this year. Um, Now, so let me go back a little bit in time. So the last few Christmases, I have come through mercifully, finally, I've come through quite a long period of depression. I've been depressed
Mm.
for quite a while, a few years, and it has encompassed a few Christmases, obviously. And so I have approached the holidays with dread, don't want to know about it, don't want to deal with it, don't want to do decorations, literally having the energy. Like I did when you're depressed, you do not have access to your energy the way that you do when you're not depressed. And I think this is really hard for people who are not depressed to understand. And it's probably very frustrating. And it's very frustrating for the person who is depressed to not have this energy because we're already kind of like, you know, not delighted with ourselves anyway. So, um, things like, you know, the last few years, me and Terry, like we didn't even do presents. You know, we just were like, now we were usually with somebody for Christmas, except for last year. So last year I was pretty low, and I kept the bar very low. So we just did a very low key Christmas here at home. We didn't do presents, but we did pajamas, and we had a lovely day, and it was great. And it was just us, which was great. Um, this year, then I feel more, you know, kind of like I just feel better, and so I'm like, okay, I can let Christmas in now. But at
No,
the
I
same
like that.
time, yeah, and at the same time, I was like having this usual fight over the tree because I just absolutely hate pulling the tree out of the garage or wherever it is, putting it up, getting pricked by the fucking fake plastic, blah, and you know, the smell of attic, and then all the
Yeah.
decorations. As much as it's lovely to put on the Christmas music and do it, but also Terry works away, so he's not going to be home till Christmas Eve. So now I was like, I just don't want to go through that on my own. Anyway, I've become really good at compromise this year. So another thing that happens is Terry started asking me like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I was going down the road of, "Oh, for fuck's sake, how could you not know?" Or why are you asking me? Like, can you not research? Like, I was going down this road of, you know, I'm not asking you. I'm going to figure that out. So I was going down the road of we have to surprise each other and this and that. So I had a little chat with myself because again, I caught myself going down the road of making something into a problem when it really wasn't. It didn't have to be a problem. So, two things. I said, do you know, I'm going to, and then I was like, I'm going to get a real tree. And then I was like, no, I don't want to do that either. So, I found a pop-up tree, right? And it's literally a hoop. It flattens down into a hoop. If you can imagine a witch's hat, it just flattens down to a hoop.
Ask me hoop.
Ask me hoop. So you can pull it up by the tip of the, like by the star. Pull it up by the star. Can I rephrase that? So you pull it up. So yeah, so you just kind of like pull it up from the top of the tree, and then you shove a pole up its hole, and and then it just it
Very happy
stands.
Christmas tree.
It's a very happy Christmas tree. It's 7 foot, but all the decorations are on it. All the lights are on it.
Oh God, that sounds amazing.
Melanie, it's amazing. I'll send you a photo, and I got it in a sale. Right?
Oh, bonus.
It goes in. It just flattens down into a massive, not a massive, but into a circle, and then it goes in a box that can be stored anywhere. It doesn't look like a coffin. You know the way the tree just is like where are you supposed to store this
Amanda,
shit?
mine is in 3 pieces. I've had the
Yeah,
same tree for 7 years, and every year there's an argument over who's dragging it up and who's.
yeah,
I normally I've gotten to the point now where I just do it myself in increments because I don't want to ask anyone anymore. But my
yeah,
kids would prefer a real tree. I am
yes.
not. I'm just not. And I did consider. I probably considered it every year, and I keep going back to no. I'm gonna keep this one. But like that, the smell of attic off it, even though it's in my basement, but same smell.
Yeah.
And the whole, and then, but I have to say, when it's done and it's all together, there's nothing nicer.
It is. It's lovely. And then I hate taking it down. But this tree, I'm going to actually see if I can. Oh, you're on your phone, so there's no point. I'll send you afterwards a photo of the tree. You won't believe it. And you'll go out looking for a pop up tree. Because also the lights that were, the way those 3-piece trees, they can come with lights.
Yeah.
So I had one of them,
Oh,
but the
yeah.
lights aren't.
It's exactly what mine is. The lights are on it, but not working. I have to put another string of lights
Ah,
around
yeah.
it.
No, I resent
No.
that. Yeah.
Do you resent that for me or just in
No.
general?
Oh, in general, I resent the tree for that. And then I'm sitting looking at the tree going, "Ah, isn't it lovely? But you're a fucking bollocks at the same time,
Yeah.
but now I have to pull the lights off you, which creates
Yeah.
more mess. So, and it's more work for us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
And it's unnecessary.
we are the ones. We're like, oh, time for the tree. We would never, ever, ever arrive home someday and the tree just be done.
But oh, never, ever.
No,
But
but that's
how,
our job.
yeah, yeah.
But we still want
How,
the tree.
yeah.
So this is my compromise, a pop-up tree, because I want the tree, but I also don't want the hassle of the tree, given that it's my responsibility somehow, because everyone
Who
else can live
invented
without it.
that? Why didn't we invent that tree when it's been our problem for years?
Oh, I've no
Who
idea.
invented that tree? Who's the multimillionaire now fucking going around laughing her or his way to the North Pole? But yeah, my tree, like 3 pieces and in big black sacks.
Yes.
And it's just
Yeah.
labeled top, middle, bottom, if I'm lucky
Oh,
to label it.
I know. Anyway, so that's one of the things I've done. Now, so this is all about compromise, right? Because it's like,
Yeah.
again, with the stress of Christmas, it's like I want the thing, but I don't want all the stress that comes with it. So how can I
Yeah.
still have the thing and with minimal stress? So pop-up tree. Now the other one was the reason I wanted a real tree was because I was like, well, at least if I can have some kind of like sensory experience, because the smell of a Christmas tree is lovely. So I said to myself,
Mm.
well, I'll buy a real garland.
Oh, very good.
Just a piece, just a centerpiece that I'll still get a whiff of when I walk past. So I'm not dealing with a whole tree,
Yeah.
you know? Then with the
Yeah.
presents, what I said was, I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy us, like, I'll do the presents. And,
Hmm.
and I kind of made myself like, because I was getting a bit shitty about that. But then I said, no, I'm gonna get us both something that we really like. Like that would be
Mm.
like something good. Arrive here, I'll wrap it, I'll put it under the tree. So now like Christmas is just so low key, but all the things are happening with the minimum amount of
Oh,
stress.
yay! I feel like this is going to be a great Christmas for you.
Yeah, and it's just going to be, like it's a compromised thing, but it's a solution, and solutions are better than problems.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Here's a
So
compromise that I'm doing this year, and I started doing it last year. And back to, the not wrapping presents, right? And I have friends who don't wrap their presents. And like you said, that's the way it's always been for them. It's the way it's been for their kids. And when I think about the amount of time I spend wrapping presents only for it to be ripped open, and then who picks it all up?
in the black
Gobshite
bag.
here,
Yep.
right? So, but it is a tradition for us. However, because I see so much sense in the other way, I have compromised now, and my kids being older are big into clothes at the moment. And
Mm.
because I own a theatre production company, I also own costume rails. So
Yeah.
last year, I brought in two of my small costume rails and I hung up their new clothes and I put a big red bow on the costume rail.
Love it.
And that saved me wrapping, I would, maybe 15 pieces. Now, I will say I have my mammy for Christmas this year. And what does our mammy love to do?
Wrap.
She loves to wrap presents.
Yeah.
So I
I'm
might have a
so
few
glad I got
jobs.
that answer right. I could have embarrassed her there, but anyway, go on.
I have a few things that I'll have Mam wrapping now, but Mam, does the meticulous, like with the tongue out of her mouth wrapping it.
Yeah.
That's pointless to the listeners, of course, but she'll be in her element now when I give her a rake of things to wrap. But
Cool.
again, back to the compromise. What can I do here to not have to wrap everything, but still make it presentable? So I'm,
Yeah.
still excited about the presentation, and they will be too.
Yeah. Do you know what this reminds me of? Do you remember our first handout we did for the Creating Peaceful Solutions episodes, like how to get what you
Yes.
want without having to fight for it? This is that process. It's like, okay, what am I really wanting here? And is there another way of getting it that
Go
doesn't
back to
require
that.
all the because then, then
Mhm.
there's the fight, then there's the resentment about, the not, who's bringing the box up from the attic and who's doing this and who's not doing that and all of that. And I do everything around here and, you know, so yeah. Now, quickly, I want to just say about um, the little bag, the self-care kit, an actual physical self-care kit. So I have this small little bag, and it's a handmade material, the hand-sewn material bag. So it's a bag that I really like, and it feels lovely to the touch. And in that bag, are you rooting around for yours? Do you have one as well?
Yeah, you gave me one, and I'm looking for it
Okay.
here.
Yeah. Mine is just not at my fingertips here. But in that bag, what I have is I have some essential oil. So it'll either be lavender or frankincense. I have hand cream. I have herbal teas, my favorite herbal teas. I might have, oh, there it is. Yes, you're showing it to me now. Exactly. I will have some headache tablets in there, some ibuprofen or Advil or whatever it is that you're using. I will have maybe my favorite poem or a prayer in there. I might have what have you? Yes, okay, there you go. Melanie is just unpacking her bag now and showing me all the things that she has. So she has a little card. I feel like I'm on QVC. She has a little card. She has the a little kind of an ornament that I sent. She has a lavender oil, essential oil. And yeah, so this is like a little kit that you have, and you can go into that bag at any time you want. You just sit at the table, reach for your bag, open the bag, and have a little rummage in there and say, like, what would help right now? For me, the the um the hand cream always works for me because it helps keep me in my body. And when I am feeling stressed, I will just take the hand cream out. And again, remember, so when you feel that urge to be a Jack Russell, open your bag, take out your hand cream and get back in your body. And how you're going to get back in your body is by using the hand cream. So that kind of like self-touch, self-massage, that helps bring you back into your body. The essential oil will work as well. So what I do with that, and especially when I was giving up smoking the first time, what I would do is I would just put a few drops of essential oil between my hands and rub my arm and then cup my hands over my nose, and I would take like 3 deep breaths with the essential oil. And once again, it's kind of like the Sour Patch situation. It just brings you out of your body, back into your body, I should say, out of your mind.
You know what you have now done? You have now given me my gift idea for at least two of my friends.
There you go. Putting a little
And these
self-care
are,
back in there.
yes, these are two friends who I've been
Yeah.
talking to recently about stress of holidays. Actually, three
Yeah.
friends.
Mm.
Yep.
Something else that you can keep in there is kind of like, if they work for you, those flower remedies, or you could have like mints, as in like some kind of like sweetie mints or something like that, or back flower gums or something. I also keep earplugs in there. So I was
Mm.
in a house not too well, it was a while ago, but I was in a house one time, and the noise level was so outrageous that I was getting triggered. It was really tough to sit there, and it was coming from the television mostly. Now it also can happen if I'm in a house, and there are houses I've been to where the television is on, the adults are speaking, and each of the kids have devices that are not on headphones. So it's a cacophony of sounds that is very triggering to me. But everybody else, when other people are drinking, they've kind of become deaf to this,
Yeah.
and I'm stone cold sober, and so I'm absorbing it all. These little silicone ear um earplugs, just put them in. You can't even see them coming down over your hair, and I just sit there. It doesn't make you deaf. You can still hear things, but it just
Mm.
takes down the intensity of the volume. And if nobody's talking to you, you don't. And that was the case in this situation. Nobody was actually talking
Probably
to
don't
me.
want. At that point, you're probably hoping
We
nobody
were
will ask
watch,
you the question a second time.
we were watching the telly in this particular time, and the sound of the telly, it was actually making me physically ill. It was going through my body. It was pulsating through my body. It was so loud.
Mm.
And those earplugs saved me in that situation, you know?
And did you choose the earplugs over asking them to turn the volume down
Yes.
because it
In that
cost you less
situation,
energy?
I did. No, because in the situation, there was, first of all, I was in somebody else's house. And second of all, there's a hearing problem in this house. So,
Ah, right.
do you know? So,
Clearly.
yeah, it was a normal level for them, but it wasn't for me, obviously. And it was
Hmm.
also soccer, which, you know, is like, drives me crazy at the best of times. The sound of soccer, can't stand it. The sound of sports drives me crazy, unless it's, GA sports. I don't mind those sounds. Um, so yeah, that's the other thing. So keep that little kit with you. And here's another thing: make sure that your earphones are charged. Your phone is charged. Make sure that you have a charger with you. If you're staying over, bring your own. This is what I do. I bring my own pillow. I bring my own knee pillow. I bring my own blanket, earplugs as well for sleeping. My nighttime tea, all of those things. Like,
Mm.
bring everything with you. If you're in your own home and your home is going to be full of people, make sure that your room, turn some space, and if you can, your bedroom into, a really nice getaway, a little retreat that you can go into every now and again. So, have your room nice, have your candles, you know, are your bulbs fresh? Just create a space in your house. So that little self-care bag is somewhere you
Mm.
can escape into for a second. And so is your
Mm.
room. So where can you go to? And don't have your room, if you can help it, don't have your room to be a mess. Because if you try and escape one chaotic environment
Mm.
and then your only safe space is also chaotic, it's not going to help you.
Oh, I love that. I think this is going to be so helpful for everybody.
Yeah, pre-planning, pre, you know, preempt all of the things, and always have a response. Even have a buddy that you can be like, listen, Christmas is going to be stressful. Do you mind if I text? Do you want to check in at some point during the day? Let's just be each other's text buddy, you know?
Love that.
Yeah, so there are the things that I can think of. Oh, I mean, here's another one. Maybe it doesn't bear saying, or like, if you are going to be around somebody difficult and in a difficult situation, if you can help it, don't drink.
Hmm.
Really don't. Don't do that to yourself, in terms of like, because I've done that to myself, where I'm just like, I can't cope with this situation, so I'm just gonna get oblivious.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have lost, control of myself. And so I'm more easily baitable. I'm much more vulnerable, much more vulnerable. Plus, I can't just get in the car and leave.
Mm.
I need to. If I really need to, you just keep your wits about you. It's not going to be fun. It's not going to be fun. And chances are, it'll just make things worse. So keep that in mind too. Just look
Mm-hmm.
after yourself. And one of the ways you can look after yourself is by, just refraining on this day
Mm-hmm.
from the, drinking that will make you more vulnerable.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Well, I think that you have given us, and I might have contributed.
Of course you did.
We have given our listener, I think, a little bag of tricks. Maybe
Yeah.
not the physical little bag that you're talking about, but we've certainly given them some ways to prepare as the holidays, swing into full action. And,
Yeah.
just take care of yourselves out there.
Absolutely. And, enjoy, if you can, enjoy it. But most of all, what I say to people, I don't, if I'm sending cards, which I don't, but if I was, or text messages, rather than Happy Christmas, because that's probably, that's not low hanging fruit. Have a safe Christmas and a peaceful one if you can at all.
Love that.
Okay.
Until next time.
Okay. Bye.